practice field and just started doing some edits, so I apologize. A few minutes late. Really just turn the page quickly. Obviously, Saturday to have the early kickoff. I thought our guys handled that moment. We had played 3 straight night games, and then to play the thing that probably, as I sat back and relaxed and kind of took in after the game on Saturday, we made a big issue with our guys about it was going to be the hottest game we had played to that point, and literally did not have one issue with cramping or any hydration issues. These guys have really handled their business as good as any team I've been around. We made a big issue about really from Thursday on about the game time temperature and the heat factor and playing 11 o'clock and everything from A to Z, and I thought that made a really big statement to me as well. Came out of it pretty healthy. A couple injury updates. Aiden Lawfrey cleared practice today. Should be, as long as there isn't anything unforeseen, will be with us on Friday. Carson Goda as well. Carson practiced today and should be involved in several aspects of the game plan as we go forward. One of the things I've really enjoyed is just offensively we've been able to work through a lot of different personnel groupings through the first 3 games, and expect more of that to come, just maximizing our best personnel. I think last year, because of the personnel that we were in, we were really pretty much an 11 team, but to throw as much diversity as we can. And we've played, I believe, 6 different or 7 different personnel groupings through 3 games, and that obviously I think brings a lot of value for us. So we'll get those guys back on the offensive side, and then defensively, Tyler Strain came in, was a very effective player for us on special teams, and this will be now the second week where his health is up and can help us in certain phases of the defense as well as on special teams. So excited about that. Jumped into the film literally Saturday. Our leaving the stadium, we flipped a page. It went from Saturday to Monday. We skipped Sunday, so Sunday was really like a Monday. Today was like a Tuesday. Just very talented Nebraska football team. Have obviously a lot of respect for not only their head coach, but several of their coaches. Have had a very storied career. A lot of guys have done really good things offensively and defensively. A lot of the same players we saw a year ago. Obviously, the addition of new players on both sides of the ball and in the kicking game. So tremendous challenge, one that we're excited about to play under the lights on a Friday night. Ironically, had a Friday night game with these guys last year here at our stadium. Now to go over there and have the same, I think just because of what they've accomplished, what we've accomplished, to have 2 big teams ranked on a Friday night game is a little bit unusual. It doesn't happen all the time, all right? To see that play out and to be a part of it is awesome. Give a lot of credit to their team on what they've accomplished to this point. I told our guys to continue to keep our focus, our mentality, and see where it can go. So with that, open up for questions.
Bret, you get to test yourself on a national spotlight game, 2 ranked teams.
Mm-hmm.
I know your focus is one at a time, but just as a competitor, like, what is the excitement? What is the vibes of going into a game like that?
Well, I think, more than anything, it's our first Big Ten game, right? It's a rematch game. There's a lot of different things that factor into it besides just the 2 Big Ten teams that are ranked. I think once our guys get into Big Ten play, because of our conference right now, because of the exposure of 18 teams from coast to coast, these 9 conference games, mean a lot. I think when you throw in the element of, obviously they're ranked, we're ranked. I think that's a unique thing to these guys, right? Like it's kind of interesting to see the energy that brings. For me, I really don't, care. But for I get from the outside world and from a young man's perspective, to have that has been pretty good. But I just keep challenging these guys to keep playing their best football, to play against another really good team. I think that's something that, even going into the Kansas game, I know our guys really were excited to play against good competition, right? Against defensively against a quarterback that had all the value that he was bringing. Same thing on our defense or our offense side of the ball to play against Kansas defense, and then last week, challenge our guys to keep their focus on improving themselves, not so much about who we were playing, and then this week to have the front and center attention of Nebraska, who's gained a lot of attention ever since their Colorado game. Obviously very well deserved, and it's something that brings their attention for sure.
In terms of Alex Bryant, if I'm not mistaken, I think he was one of your first transfer additions
Mm-hmm.
in 2021. To see him progress throughout 3 years in the program and have the start to the season that he had, it's got to be.
2 guys that kind of came in that same window, Alec Bryant and T-Rod Edwards, are 2 of our probably more accountable players. Alec came in, didn't play that first year, right? So a little bit unusual, but T-Rod didn't either. But now those guys, I think both those guys stand out to me as guys on the outside world, they're probably viewed as transfers, but for me, I personally kind of think of them because they've been with us so long. They just know how we do things. They know what we're doing. Alec brings a lot of diversity because he can play both Fox and Buck for us. He's kind of a hybrid between Seth and Gabe. Seth and Gabe are two different players, but Alec kind of blends that world perfectly. But also in that room, Joe Barna and JoJo Hayden have really, since fall camp, really made a huge jump in playing ability. So for us, we play a lot of our defense schemes have two outside backers on the field at any given time, and then when you throw Gabe in to the inside position, have those two, that's three outside backers on the field, and it gives us a lot of depth, which we needed.
Their quarterback is talented, but young, true freshman. How does that factor into preparing for him?
Well, obviously the preparation from last year's game, a lot of the same coaches and all that goes into it, but he brings a different element immediately. He's a very talented young man that's got incredible awareness, very talented, got a great deep ball throw. They maximize and utilize him pretty well. I think early downs, third downs, there's some things you can literally see him get better on every series. Just very impressive to see. I know he's a highly recruited player, brought a lot of attention and deservedly so. I've known the Raiola family. When I was coach at Wisconsin, his uncle was there, who I got to know very, very well. Then when I was in the league, got to know them, and then watched the story unfold wherever he was committed the first couple of times, and then to go there last year brought a lot of attention to that, and you can see why he's everything that I would say that he's built up to be, and probably even more.
Coach, as your game planning, offensively, how much of that is informed by an offensive philosophy versus what's actually been clicking for you on game day?
I don't get the question.
Do you like the way you've been moving the ball, or do you want more balance and a little more effective inside running game?
The numbers speak for themselves, right? The ultimate number that we care about is 3 wins, 0 losses, but we're trying to go 1-0 every week. I think good teams do 3 things. They run the ball, defend and run, and cover kicks, and obviously our offense has to be balanced. They got to be able to run the ball effectively, especially when certain situations arise. I think going into this stretch here of 9 straight Big Ten games, I think, to be on the road, last night when I left the office, there was a 50% chance for rain on Friday. This morning when I came in, there was a 90% chance on Friday night, right? So I don't know where it's going to be. 2 best jobs in the country are weathermen and sports writers. You never have to be right, So I think the part that I think we have to be able to take advantage of if we want to win effectively in the Big Ten is be able to run the ball, at certain situations. But I think the greatest definition of a team is a team that can run the ball effectively when they want to run it against good competition.
You said after the game, kind of want to challenge your offensive line. What's that look like this week, and what are you hoping to get out of them?
Well, exactly right there. One of our biggest things that we have to do is become more consistent. I thought, 2 weeks ago in the Kansas game, one of our 2 MVPs were our 2 tackles. Melvin and JC played well, but I think they could play even better than what they played. Geske, Josh, and Zai, again, did some good things, but want them to pick up their level of play. We worked Brandon Henderson into the routine as a big tight end, but we were just having a hard time getting him in the lineup. So to get him game reps, I've done that often in my career, is just to give him a player more reps. Blocking good people during the normal part of a game is really valuable. Hunter Whiteneck, again, came in and did some things for us, has been a solid player for us, so I think the more depth we can build there. And then Kevin Wigginton went through an ankle roll-up, right? So he's been kind of just getting back up. He got cleared 2 weeks ago, so I think to bring him along and see where he can go is also going to be a big part.
When T-Rock can get pressure up the middle like he has made the last couple games, what does that maybe do for your defense? Just maybe do more with that.
Yeah, I grabbed T-Rock, I guess it was Sunday before the meetings, and just said, hey, man, I know maybe the stats, the production, the numbers that everybody seeks, right? The TFLs, the sacks, but his ability, like he shows up on film, and I made a very big point to him that, like, just keep doing what you're doing. The things will come that are there, and the most important thing is people are noticing because, the people beyond this opportunity he has in front of him this year, right? NFL scouts have asked about him. Just a very impressive. I think he's a shade to shade. Got a little bit of 3 technique value, but very explosive, dynamic. Plays at a really high motor. I think him and Briggs in there together have begun to be a little bit disruptive. And then you throw Gabe into the mix. Alex Bray had another good step forward. So I'm excited to see that group continue to grow.
You've
played at Nebraska while at Wisconsin and Illinois. What's just that environment like, and what do you expect on Friday night?
Well, 400 straight sellouts, right? I don't know how many times somebody can be a part of 400 things, but we're getting the opportunity to be number 400. So a very tenured, unbelievable fan base. I remember the first time I ever went there, I was a young linebacker coach at the University of Iowa. We played there. Had never seen it, never heard it, never been a part of it, and became very educated in a short amount of time. And it's a very, I'd say, high football IQ crowd. Like, they know what's going on, they understand it, they get it, and they play to it. That doesn't happen by chance. So I think again, another part of this conference is just playing in some very, very awesome, unique settings, environments. Nebraska is an environment that, you kind of walk, the way you get to the stadium is unique. You pass through a bunch of people, and to hear that. I was at Kansas State when we played them a couple times, and to play them in that environment against former, at that time they were Big 12 opponents, right? And then to come back into it in the Big 10, just an awesome experience, and I think something our guys will really, really love the challenge. We got to obviously participate or prepare and anticipate crowd noise being a factor in the game, as you can see it happen.
You talked in the offseason a lot about limiting turnovers. So through 3 games last year, 7 turnovers. Through 3 games this year, just 1. So obviously the emphasis is work. A play like Altmaier almost like spiking the ball on that 3rd down. Is that part of that plan of like, listen, the one thing that can go wrong here is if you see somebody breaking on the ball, 3rd down, first pickup or not, you got to not throw that pick.
There's probably 2 or 3 things that factor into it. Just awareness, right, as a football player. Like, I thought Luke, there was an arrow route to the running back you're talking about. Yeah, he definitely made a decision to ground that. But also there's been some, unique scenarios, like he got a ball batted back to him, right, and he must not have liked that umpire because he took him out, But like, just very smart, headsy football player. Luke had to make both those decisions in less than a half a second, and he really did that. So I think those are great compliments to him. I think Barry and I would say Art, Art Sikowski is heavily involved. And again, I sit into some QB meetings, just the confidence that he's speaking with. But what's really been fun for me is to listen to our other quarterbacks talk to him about preparing him for a game, because they're also preparing themselves for that moment, right? So I think that part's really good. And then, I think there's a little bit of, I've said it all along, right? You learn more through moments of adversity and do moments of success. And, Luke unfortunately went through some moments last year that were hard to go through, right? For him personally, for us as a team, and to come out on the other side of it in a positive light is a true testament to him. But I'm just telling you, it goes through, in the last, probably, I would say 14 days, as we have success and there's players that aren't getting the opportunities that they feel that they can because the other guys are in front of them playing fairly well, that creates an atmosphere where people, if they want to become concerned about themselves and not concerned about the team as much, like that those can be hostile problems too.
I know you do practices like we're doing red area today, we're doing middle of the field, we're doing second downs, that type of thing. Is turnovers, are that taught into that? Is there like a risk-averse thing of like, look, we're on the 10 right now, here's the situation?
Yeah, well, 2 things. First, I never ask an offense to turn the ball over, right? So that's one thing. It's a voodoo doll, whatever you want to say. Like, when we're trying to practice sudden change, I'll just say, hey, we're going to turn the ball over here, and I'll flip the ball on the ground. Or I'll just say, hey, they just intercepted the ball on a 26-yard line right hash, because I don't want to, incentivize anything that would make that happen. So we practice and work sudden change, but once we get into the season, the situational parts that we have are more created by the script than they are by the actions, if that makes sense. But I think that the biggest point, I remember this moment with Tommy. I only had Tommy for 1 year, right? And I went into it, and there was an interception in the spring where I kind of had my moment of Jesus with him, right? And I just said, listen, I understand interceptions. I understand they can happen. I understand batted balls. But you can't force a ball into an early down pass, right? I can even live with some third down interceptions, right, or where it is. But you can't have early down interceptions, right? Those things are absolute. They just can't happen. They're killers. And I think Luke has been outstanding at managing the game in that regard.
Bret, your first game was against Nebraska, and obviously have coaching change. Mm-hmm. What have you noticed from Matt? How has the program progressed under him, and what has made him good, I guess?
I've known Matt all the way back to the Temple days, right, and then watched his growth at Baylor, and then obviously when he had his NFL opportunity. Didn't really know him. I've gotten to know him now since being in the league a little bit. just a really good ball coach, bases on fundamentals. He builds, I think, the team in the right way. He's got a great fan base. He's obviously have a facility now that's second to none. They got the whole package there with everything from NIL to the recruiting database. I think the part that's really unique to Nebraska is just the 50 years of football before any of us were here, right? Like, it's hard to erase those. I remember I was very upset. I might have told the story, but when the Big Ten became leaders and legends, right? And I was a head coach at Wisconsin, and they talked about these 4 teams. They talked about Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan, and Nebraska, and how those teams had to be spread throughout these 2 divisions. And I'm like, well, if you look at the last 20 years, we've won more than everybody except for Ohio State. We were second. And I was a direct part of that, right? And I couldn't get it through my head. And Alvie kind of said to me, he goes, you can't replace 100 years of football. And it made a lot of sense to me. So they have that tradition, that history. I know I always follow our opponents, right? So I know Matt, during the course of over the last year, especially with Coach Osborne and the legends that are there, that he's incorporated them into their current regime, which is obviously very intelligent. One of my best friends, Barry Alvarez, is a Nebraska guy through and through, and I got to know a lot of his teammates. I know the pride that's associated with those guys and the way that Nebraska plays, and he plays off that big time.
I guess with Tyler Strain healthy again, Terrence Brooks getting some snaps, just how do you go about maybe best using 5 guys for 3 spots?
Well, I think depth is one of the most essential parts to building a good program, right? Like, to have people that you want to get on the field and get them out there. I would say this though, like, things are going to change dramatically in a short amount of time. Nebraska, almost 70% of their offense is 11 personnel, which is 3 wides on the field and 1 tight end. You play certain teams that Kansas played a lot of 12, which was 2 tight ends, right? Like prepping for Central Michigan, they played a lot of 12 personnel on Saturday, a lot more than we probably thought we were going to see. So, on a future horizon, Penn State brings a whole different offensive schematic thoughts and game plans. Oregon going down on the road, there's some teams ahead of us that put multiple skill players on the field, which will allow you to play more and more DBs. But Terrence, was good to get him involved. He strained. Really, last week was the first week that he was fully cleared the whole week to get the reps and get up. So we knew we wanted to get him in on the 3rd series, and he got in there and did some really good things, and again, really did some good things in the kicking game. Another guy, Tanner Heckel, came out and did incredible on special teams. Jaheim Clark, another guy that was really, really, those 2 guys were special teams MVP guys that all 3 of those guys, Tyler Strain, Tanner Heckel, and Jaheim Clark, those 3 guys were really a big part of what we did on special teams. And Mac Rusetish got in and did some really good snaps in the free safety. So we're getting more guys back there playing well, which is a big deal.
Caleb Valentine's kind of made most of his opportunities. Do you see a more of an expansive role for him going forward?
There's only 1 ball. Like, I don't know what to tell you. We have, with Aiden back into it. I mean, we got Aiden, Caden, Josh, and Khalil, all 4 of those guys. I'll just keep saying, like, I think the part that I've learned as a head coach, the more you have of running backs that have different skill sets, the better it is, right? If everybody kind of looks the same, walks the same, talks the same, it's good, but it's not near as good as everybody's a little bit different. And Khalil, when he hops in there, he's a completely different change of pace than for sure Caden and Josh. And now to get Aiden in there, they have some similarities. Those guys are really good athletes. They catch the ball extremely well. Khalil just continues to be very impressive, just his vision, his sidestep, and his juke. So, yeah, we're gonna incorporate as many guys as we can to touch the ball, but there's only 1 ball.
You mentioned Ethan after the game a little bit about Ethan Olszewski.
Oh, yeah.
The recruiting process, about his experience at A&M, but also the plan you had for him, knowing you had a scholarship kicker in David already, and he seemed to want to believe in your plan. Just, can you walk me through what that process was like out of the portal, knowing you had a scholarship kicker, but you had a plan for him?
Well, you maybe don't know as much as you do think you know. You've already said 3 things that aren't correct. But I would say the part that's awesome about Ethan is he was looking for an opportunity. It was very clear to me what he was looking for, opportunity to kick. I literally thought he had kicked a field goal in live situations, right? Because I knew he had kicked, but I didn't know what. It was just a PAT, so to have his first ever field goal be a 59-yarder was, but again, like I think he said in his press, like he did this in practice, right? So like there was no shock to anybody that was lining up to perform, and there was no shock to any of us that were watching it happen. As far as just like actually literally just about a half hour ago, we got the actual game ball, and I had it on my desk, and I just said, hey, swing in and pop in and to give him that, and to now have an Illinois record in his hands, right, of the actual game ball just speaks volumes. And the David and the relationship between those two, to kind of watch those two kind of interact and perform, just super, super exciting. He brings a lot to the table. I think all of our guys feel very good about the combo platter of both those guys. But in kickoffs, I mean, I love the 59-yarder, but he averaged 71 yards, right? 71 yards with a 4.2 hang time, which is an incredible number. For the non-math majors, it's 65 yards to the goal line, right? So that means he was hitting it 5 yards deep, 6 yards deep from where that was, and a lot of those were into the wind, so it was pretty good.
Can you hit on what Aaron had to go through last week
Yeah.
and how you guys managed that and how he's come through?
Yeah, well, Aaron, as we all know, is a very strong face, strong man overall. I would say that initial conversation when he came in my office, it was real late. It was late, probably after. It was definitely after 10, and I didn't know what was coming in. Right, I just had a person that I love in a very tough spot. So to sit and talk, we must talk for probably, I don't know, half hour or so, kind of just walk him, talk him, get him through it. I give a lot of credit to Josh and his crew, like the things that he'll have to do in the future to be a part of the celebration of her life will be after this weekend, and to the university to be able to take care of some things there has been absolutely kind of put his mind at ease, I think, a little bit. And then I just let him steer it. I didn't want to say anything to you guys, right? I didn't want to say anything to the media. We met with the media on Friday before the game, right? And I didn't say anything. I let that raise his hands, but I know he, had a moment with those people, and then after the game, we were able to give him a game ball, and to see our reaction of our players was really special and very awesome. But if you get to know Aaron, as you guys do, right, the gratitude that our players, our coaches have for Aaron is only because he does the same thing back to them. So yeah, unfortunately. I've been through a couple of those, right, and I was able to share with him experiences when I lost my sister at an early age and where it is. So I think it's just another great indication of the family atmosphere we have here, which is pretty awesome.
You mentioned Coach Alvarez. Do you get to talk to him much during the season at all, or is it
not during the season? I mean, we do once in a while. I'll get a hey, cuz, a text or something, but I did. I know Wisco's off this week, so there's a little group of Nebraska Wisco people that I during the summer, I think when I was in Hawaii, I was looking at our comprehensive schedule, and I just looked up and saw that they had, so I kind of reminded that group that I had tickets waiting for them if they wanted, but none of them took me up on it. But no, I don't really. I've really become an appreciation of Nebraska really because of my experiences at K-State. So I played in the Big Ten when there was no Nebraska, right? And then I went to K-State, and when we went to K-State, we won. We were the number one defense in the country 2 years in a row. We were really good. Won a Big 12 title. It was the first team in a long time to beat Nebraska at Nebraska, and then we won home. So we had, and then Frankie Solich was there, a guy that I competed against, and then I got the defense coordinator job at Wisconsin. And all of a sudden, Albie said one day, he said, "Hey, we got Frankie coming to town this week. He's going to spend a couple weeks with it." And I'm like, "Who the hell's Frankie?" Right? And somebody said, "That's Frank Solich," and I'm like, "Oh gosh," because we just beat him 2 years in a row, right? So he came and spent a couple weeks, and he came in and sat in my office, and I just remember the respect that I had for that man before that day and after that day, just a true embodiment of what the game is all about, right? And then, to be quite honest, Craig Bowl is now the AFCA director, and Craig's history with Nebraska is literally a guy in my coaching profession that I really admire and respect. So there are just so many great coaches that have come out of Nebraska, great players. I always loved getting around players that played at Nebraska when I was in the league or I was in that environment, and I'd meet players that played at Nebraska, and the passion that they speak of, right, and talk of, you really have great admiration for that. It's just same as our players, right? Like one of the great things over the last couple of weeks is to have so many former players reach out to me. We had Mikey Dudak last week, right? Like, and his story is absolutely a gut wrencher, right? And I try to always reach out to those guys the day after, because obviously Friday we're really busy. Mike gave a great speech. Saturday was insane, so I hit him up on Sunday, and just his response was very good. The week before that, Martin O'Donnell gave a speech that was freaking just unbelievably awesome. Kevin Mitchell the week before that, right? So to hear these former players from Stu Levnick to current players from everywhere in between, it's what college football is all about. It's really awesome.
With Ethan showing you can bang one in from 60, that's part of the field is often a 4-down territory for teams. Does that change your calculus? Does that area like kind of shift?
Well, that was an easy one because if he hit it, he hit it. If he missed it, it wasn't any time, right? For us, in that game, we actually orchestrated what we thought was our own kind of 2-minute scenario where we had the ball at the 2-minute warning. We would have loved to get a touchdown, but we got a field goal, right? And then we took over. Obviously, they got a scoring opportunity, right? And then we took it back over and converted it into. So we really truly got 2 field goals at the end of the first half, and then got 7 points on the back end. So we got, any way you want to cut it, at least 2 scores, kind of 2.5, without their offense ever being on the field. So that one's easy. The part you got to keep in mind when you try long-range field goals and you don't get them, you could turn the ball over, right? So, basically every ball that's spotted, you just add 18 yards to it, right? So if it's on the 33-yard line, you add 18 yards. No, again, mathematics, 51-yarder, right? So, for us, I think that's the part you have to understand is anything that's in that 20 to 35 range, maybe is a little bit of a push, but now you start giving somebody the ball on a 38, 39-yard line, that's a different deal, right? So plus a huge momentum to come off a miss. So the good news is he gives us a chance, especially in those end of game scenarios that maybe doesn't exist for a lot of other people.
All right, thanks.
Thank you. Appreciate it.